What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Today we're talking about voicings. How to easily play voicings that sound great. I had to check my title here. Come on in. This is going to be a really fun session. Well, I think it's going to be really fun. You'll have to let me know. But before you do that, please let me know, where are you joining from in the world? Who's going to be first? Who's going to be first? Snooze is first. What's up? Let me know in the chat if you would, if you are able to do so at this time, where this is finding you today, this afternoon, this evening, this morning, no matter where you are. Maybe you're already into Thursday. It's possible. It is 2 p.m. here in St. Louis, Missouri. It's a beautiful fall day. It feels like summer. It's always a good day to develop some voicings, chord voicings. Such a, I don't want to say misunderstood, but so many questions about voicings. How do I get good voicings? And what I thought I would do today is really look at, what's up, Italy is in the house. What's up, Frank? What's up, Minnesota? Finland. I bet it might be starting to get a little cold in Finland. Maybe not yet. Maybe not yet. It's a little early. Green Bay. This is a beautiful part of the USA, the upper Midwest. Like, we're going to be looking at some ways to play voicings. Some voicings that sound really good, but are not as complicated as you think. This is going to be more about, like, how to use voicings, how to manipulate them. I've got 6 different ways I've broken down. Diatonic, inversions, chromatic, pentatonics, inner voice movements, and diminished cycle. All different ways to take some cool voicings for different situations. There you go. What's up, Slim? I was just in Houston, Texas last weekend playing some music at the Worth Center. It was worth attending, I think. We had a good time there. I had a fun run along the bayou in Houston. I hope you guys are cool there. You're not getting hit by that storm that was heading your way. I think it's going east of you, but hope everybody there stays high and dry. Hubert in Warsaw, Poland, what is going on? What's up, Barry in Bogota, Colombia? That's a country that I really want to go to. So if you like voicings like this, rootless voicings, we might do a few rooted voicings, but it's going to be mostly rootless voicings today. Concepts around them, concepts to practice, to develop your repertoire of root voicing. I think that's what this is really about, is like things that you can go through, concepts that you can take to any voicing, potentially, that you like. What I think that you'll see happens, like, for instance, I'm already giving you some foreshadowing about inversions here. There's a certain register that some of these voicings stop working, right? So it's like we want to get them in our hands. That's too low, right? But then we're also starting to feel like, where do they feel right? Panama is in the house. What's up, Panama? Switzerland. It's always a good day in Switzerland, I think. Toronto, our fair neighbors to the north, up in Ontario. Barry Harris voicings. Those are things that we're not going to be going over today because my understanding of them is still limited. Apparently, my ability to play them, I can sort of do. What's up, Sweden? Come on in. We're going to wait just a couple minutes here, probably about 2 minutes for the room to fill up. I forgot to put on my timer today, but that's okay. We know what's happening. We're going to put, did I see? Yeah, there we go. Park City, Utah. What's up, Chris? What's up, Michael in Rochester, New York? What's up, Vladimir? Hi from Serbia, fresh OS member. Well, welcome in. I hope you're having a good time. I just did a live session for our Open Studio Pro community just about an hour ago, and we had a couple new folks in there, which was great. We We got some exciting stuff happening over at Open Studio Pro. If you want to go next level with a lot of this stuff, with live sessions with myself, Adam Manis, a number of new teachers from around the world that we have, a couple of which we're going to be announcing next week. Bob DeBoo, Chris Parks. If you want to know about Barry Harris, voicings and concepts, Chris Parks does a couple of weekly classes for us that are just amazing. He gives you feedback on your playing. That's sort of a direct connection to that. If you're interested, go check out Open Studio Pro. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. Hello from India. What's up, Amit? What is up from the Philippines? Diamond, die for Mind. I don't know what's happening here. UK is in the house. Cliff 1. What does that mean? Congo. What's up, Vertex? North Carolina. That's that's both my parents' home state. So it's like my adopted home state, right? St. Pete, Florida, very close to where I was born. Greetings from Mars. Are we going to Mars? What's happening? Is Uncle Elon going to allow us to go to Mars? We got to be careful about that. Guadalajara, Mexico. Bowmanville. Good one. What's up? Welcome in. I'm glad you're here live. These are fun live because there's the element of surprise. There's the potential element of failure on my part. I don't think there's very little chance this is going to be an epic failure, but it's always like, that's the great thing about live. That's the great thing about jazz music and really just playing music in general. Like, this is not about just doing things that we know how to do, right? This is about challenging ourselves, doing things live, not like overly, I think we want to be prepared, but then we want to live in the moment. So certainly when we're performing, but I think even when we're teaching to a certain degree. I don't know though, right? Dublin, Ireland. I love Dublin. You know, it's funny, like voicings. This is going to be one of the ones we go over, a rootless two-handed voicings. We're going to be doing a lot of left-handed voicings, stuff that you can improvise, but a couple of rootless ones as well. But some of these two-handed, rootless. And we're going to look at some ways to move them around. Okay, let's get going. Boom, boom, boom. One more. Portland, Oregon, because I love Portland. There you go. Okay, let's get started. Let me refresh. What am I doing? Voicings. Okay, here we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to today's live session. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Peter Martin. I've played with everybody from Roy Hargrove to Wynton Marsalis, Diane Reeves, Betty Carter over the last 30 years as a professional touring jazz musician. I've also been teaching pretty much all of my life, but teaching online for like the last 15 years plus. Even from the beginning of time when people were just barely going online to learn anything. I've been sort of there from the beginning. So I've learned a few things here and there, mainly how hopefully to expose this music, this instrument, the fun, the endless beauty and bounty that it can give us if we're willing to give it something, the connections that we can make with others around the world that are going after this pursuit of connecting with the music, living a musical life, practicing every day, getting off the couch and becoming a participant as opposed to just a spectator, just a listener. There's nothing wrong with listening. Listening is very important. But no matter where we are in our musical journey, no matter where we are with our skill level, it's so important for us to engage with the instrument, in this case the piano, but whatever instrument or instruments that you play, your voice, engage with music, because the world is going a lot of different places, but most things are not going to push you to want to engage. It's going to be sit back, tune out, plug into the matrix, and just be entertained, which is fine sometimes. But what these sessions are about, how can we challenge ourselves, learn some things, develop some things. Hopefully I'll be giving you some things that you can practice, some concepts. So this is not just about here's some hip voicings to play on your gig tonight. This is about some concepts, and I've got 6 of them to improve your voicings through your daily practice. So I would encourage you, just like you practicing your scales, you know, your repertoire. I'm just demonstrating practicing scales. Why not? Repertoire, ear training, learning solos, all the different activities and segments of our practice that we can do. Working on voicings for piano is so important, okay? So we have 6 different ways that we're going to talk about to manipulate, to move around, to have fun with, and to sound good with voicings. We've got diatonic movement. We've got inversions. We've got chromatic movement. We've got pentatonic movement. We've got inner voice movement. And we've got moving through the diminished cycle, okay? So we're gonna start with diatonic. And this one I think is a great place to start because, and I got a little bit of chicken scratch going on today. I hope you're okay with that. I'm going old school. But the idea is like, there's so many different diatonic areas we can be in. And if you don't know what diatonic means, don't worry about it. For some reason, I didn't know it for like the first 40 years of my life, but somehow I survived and was able to play and make music. I knew what the concept was. I knew what it sounded like. I just didn't ever think about the word for whatever reason. So all it means is we're taking one scale, one tonal center, one harmonic area that we can translate into horizontal melodic movement on the keyboard and using that to move things around. So in this case, we're going to take C Dorian, which diatonically is the same as a B flat major scale, right? We've got 2 flats, E flat and B flat, okay? Now, obviously we have lots of different kinds of minor scales. Melodic minor, natural minor, but we're gonna use the Dorian. So we've got the 6th, we've got the 7th, the dominant 7th, of course the minor 3rd, okay? So we're gonna take this first voicing here. We see this, we're gonna focus in right on that C minor, okay? So this is a classic voicing. In fact, we started calling this here at Open Studio that voicing. Because I used to call it like the McCoy voicing, the 4th voicing, and there was some confusion. So we're just gonna call it that voicing because it's probably the most important. I should have a caveat for that because some people could argue about this, but I think it's the most important voicing for playing modern jazz, at least the most important rootless left-handed voicing, okay? So what do we have here? We're over a C minor 7, right? So we've got the minor 3rd, the 6th, and the 9th. So you might say, wow, that's not even a C minor 7. That's actually a C minor 6/9. That's true, but we're not gonna worry about that because we're about to do some diatonic movement. And so the important thing, as opposed to what scale degrees these are, 3rd, 6th, and 9th, is what is the interval? What is the relationship of those 3? And so it's all fourths. That's a 4th, and that's a 4th. And you might be saying, hold on, those aren't the same intervals. And you would be correct. That interval from the A to the D is a perfect 4th. The interval from E flat to A is a diminished 5th or an augmented 4th or a tritone. All of those mean the same thing. But we're going to be thinking about them as fourths. And that's the reason I think about this as a 4th voicing, because we're going to move it around diatonically. So what does that mean? We keep the same shape of fourths and we're going to move through that C minor Dorian scale. So I'm just going up stepwise. Each note is moving up to the next note that corresponds within that C Dorian scale. And what you see happening, and you might be like, well, you don't need to go that high. Well, why not? It's fun. We might not do it when we play, but that's okay. But as we move around, sometimes we're doing 2 perfect fourths, like those. That's a perfect 4th. That's a perfect 4th. That one's all perfect 4ths. That one's perfect 4ths and tritone. A little different than where we started, where the tritone was on bottom and the perfect 4th. It doesn't matter. They're all 4ths, right? So it's a cool way to practice these in all the different keys that you're going to use, which hopefully eventually is all 12 keys, but to move diatonically with any voicing that you want to do. They're not going to all work, but some of them are going to work almost everywhere, and almost all of them will work at least somewhere. So if I go... That's all diatonic movement with that same 4th voicing over a C minor, okay? And you you might say, hold on a second, I hear that one, but what is that you're doing here? There, I got it right this time. That one sounds a little bit weird, but that is diatonic. You got the perfect fourth on the bottom, and you've got the augmented fourth on top. And then, you know, it doesn't have to always be directly scale-wise diatonic movement. You could go. You can eventually jump around, but for purposes of practice, we're first just going to be moving around and getting those shapes, right? And remember, we're not like guitar players where we can just slide up the same shape up and down. We have to make those adjustments, so there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. Now, the one that you can, for this particular voicing, slide up and down, and it's the only one, is the D minor. Because it's diatonically the same as C major, all white keys, so we start out with that fourth, or we can start out anywhere. But it's going to be the same shape, so we can kind of lock in our hand. And as you're practicing these, as you're learning them, listen, right? Because, like, how does that sound? Is there a little more tension in there, maybe? How does it sound when you use different combinations? They're not all equal because they're not all perfect fourths, and some of them have a tritone, some of them don't. Generally, the ones with a tritone are going to have a little bit more tension, and these are going to be a little bit more open. So what that leads to later on is sort of sliding back and forth, tension and release between your voicings. A lot of times we think that the tension and release is all about what we're improvising melodically with our right hand. And we often will do that where we'll introduce, you know, some alterations, flat 9, sharp 11, flat 13, whatever, sharp 9. But we can also do that even before we add alterations to the left hand, which we are going to do today. We can do that just by finding those a little bit more tense chords as we move around diatonically, okay? All right, now I've got one other diatonic before we move on to number 2 here. And this is a two-handed voicing. And this one I like because it's a little bit of like the flip side to the so what voicings. You may know these. We've got all fourths, perfect fourths, and then a major third on top. And then when we diatonically move, we get a little bit of change with that. But basically it's all fourths and thirds, some type of third, major or minor on top. And those are ones that are very important to learn diatonically for sure. But this one, and we're just putting in G minor just for fun, I really like because it's similar. Like this would be the so what voicing. But we've got a fourth on top, so we're building off G minor, perfect fourth, perfect fourth, perfect fourth, not perfect fourth, but correct for the diatonic movement, right? Tritone on top. And we can move these around diatonically as well, just like we did the 3-note left-hand voicing. And of course, these can be used in conjunction with the so what voicing, so it doesn't have to always, the actual application is going to be mixing these up. I encourage you as you're practicing to go through, you know, at least one octave with these so that you get them in your hands, and then you would go to the next one, the next key, and do the same thing. But the actual, the way I would use these might be like, so here I'm going to all fourths, and then I'm going so what with the third on top. Even doing a little chromatic, we're going to get into that as well. So the actual usage is not exclusively, but you're going to use parts of it that are diatonic. If you like this kind of sound. But you hear how that's a little crunchier as opposed to. But that's what we're looking at here. G, C, F, B flat, E. And you can kind of vary how you move around to acclimate your ears and your hands to these shapes. So you might roll them as you move up diatonically. And you're gonna know like what keys I'm going to D minor now. There's 12 keys, obviously, that you're familiar with. C minor. Maybe I'll roll down. D flat minor. I'm having to think a little more on this one. Okay, but you want to, you know, this is a fun thing. Once you start to find ones that you're comfortable with, a couple of keys, your practice assignment is kind of laid out for you when you realize, oh, there's 2 keys that I'm familiar with this, but there's 12 keys. I got to start learning the other key. You might take 1 or 2 a day and go through those and start to get them into your hands. There's a lot of benefit, especially for these two-handed voicings, for improvised stuff, for breaking up these shapes that you would get in the voicing. So it's not just for when you're comping two-handed. It also has some improv applications as well. All right, so that's diatonic movement. We're going to move on now to inversions, okay? Now, inversions are really useful, and it's kind of a different sort of sound, right? At least the way I'm going to show it here. What we've got is a G minor 7, G minor 9, and we're going to a C7 sharp 9 flat 13, and then to an F major, right? So it's like this kind of thing. That kind of a sound, right? So we're going to look at each one individually because the way we invert them is the same for all of them, but the way that they sound and the application and how much they work or don't work in different situations varies based on the quality of the chord. So like we're going to start with the G minor 7. These are really easy to do in any inversion, and they almost always work depending on the register of the piano, but they always have the possibility for working. So if I take this, I've got the 7th on the bottom, the 9th, the minor 3rd, and the 5th, and there's no root. I'm just playing it with my right hand so we can hear where it is, right? And inversions, all we're doing is taking the bottom note, the F, and putting it on top, right? We move the F up here. So that's the next voicing. Now we do the same thing. Take the A on the bottom, move it up here. Take the B flat, move it on top. Everything else stays the same. And then when we go down, opposite. Take the top B flat, put it on the bottom. Take the top A, put it on the bottom. Take the top F, put it on the bottom. So the same way we went through and learned, what was it? Yeah, these voices where we're moving up and down to get the shapes. These shapes are a little different, but it's the same thing. We want to get them into our hands, right? So if I know this G minor 9, I'm going to know it, hopefully, in all the different inversions, right? And we've got basically 3 inversions. So depending, it doesn't really matter where we start. If we start here, this is actually, we'll just call it number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. I'm sorry, we have 4 because it's a 4-note voicing. If it's a 3-note voicing like a triad, we have 3 inversions. We have 4 different inversions. But you see how I'm like adjusting my hand? Maybe you can see in that overhand, right into that shape even before I play it, right? Because we're having to stretch out more on that. Get my fingerings together. If I go to A flat minor 7, same thing. So we've got a nice challenge there to take this through all of our keys to be able to get these inversions. But they're really valuable, going back to the original key, G minor 7. See, like, hear this one? Like, say, the bass is walking. It's like shifting back and forth between them instead of just... It gives us somewhere to go, something to suggest melodically, even if we're going right to the C7. That's what really all these different 6 ways we're going over today, these techniques are about, is to give you options to take a chord that's very simple, very fundamental, very easy in a lot of ways. This is just 3, 5, 7, 9, G minor rootless. I mean, it doesn't get any more basic than that, but we're giving it some different places and things that we can do with it, right? All right, let's go on to the C7 now. So now we've got C7, sharp 9, flat 13. And look, any 4-note voicing, 3-note voicing, really any voicing at all, even a shell, a 2-note voicing, you can do inversions with it. There's nothing special about these. I just think that they're sort of good examples to show you ways to do it. But I mean, you can apply this concept to pretty much any voicing. And they're not always going to sound great, but they'll always work in theory, okay? So we've got C7, sharp 9, flat 13. Third, flat 13, dominant 7th, sharp 9. So the foundation is the 3rd and the 7th, right? That's your shell. And then we got the alteration, flat 13 and sharp 9 there. And you might think, oh, there's no way to invert this. Au contraire, mon frère, as we would say if we were in France or another French-speaking place. Same thing as the G minor. We take the bottom note and put it on top. So that's an E natural. We're going to put it here. It changes more than our other example because we've got more alterations. We're on a dominant chord, and we're going from spread out almost to an octave from a major 7th to a more clustery kind of sound. But I like that. I think that's really good. I love that sound. And it resolves nicely to some places that we're going to go. But that's your first inversion. Now we're going to go to the next one. Take the A flat, the bottom note, put it on top. Right? And then we got one more. Put the B flat on top. Okay? Same thing if we want to go down, and this will probably get a little bit too muddy pretty quick, but we can try it. We're going to put the E flat on the bottom. Actually, no, that one still works. That one gets a little bit muddy. But same thing. Top note, stick it on the bottom. Top note, stick it on the bottom. Okay? But the way we would use this, G minor. That kind of a thing, right? And you can skip over too. Like I like to go from this one, which is the one we have written there on screen, up to skipping up an inversion. So, I mean, I use that sometimes, but I like, right? So it's really important as you practice. See, I'm not looking at the piano because I use these chords, right? I know what that spacing is. I'm also feeling my way through it. But as I'm going up to here, I'm already adjusting my hand, right? This is also a shape and a voicing that I would often use over an F sharp 7. I mean, like that's an F sharp 13 classic, shell 13 ninth without any alterations. So it could be, right? Tritone substitution and then resolve on F. But it actually is absolutely an inversion of that. Okay, our final inversion example. Wait, do I have another one down here? No, that one was diatonic. Okay, good. F major. So again, this is a just like the G minor, very basic, exactly the same shape, in fact, diatonically within the key of F major. We've got the 7th, the 9th, the 3rd, and the 5th. So if you look at it kind of more root position, it's that, rootless, 3rd, 5, 7, 9. And then these are all the inversions. So when I go, now this is one I didn't have on there, but just to show you how these can work, I'm G minor 7, 2 to 5, C7 to F major, and then if I want to cycle this, maybe I go to D7, go to a 6 chord. So if I use this this voicing like a D7, am I gonna? Oh, I had this on another example. This is good. This will tie in. So I've got a D7 flat 9. I can use any of these voicings, these inversions of that same voicing, right? Or I can go down. Now you might say, wow, okay, this is starting to be repetitive. Yes, that's because I'm using these specific voicings over and over again. In the actual way I'd play, I'd combine it maybe with some diatonic movement. like these, you can always use these same chords for what we're learning. We're only on number 2, but like diatonic movement for that G minor would be this, right? Inversion movement, you start to really get some options. Of course, we're going to do chromatic movement soon, so we'll see that as well. But in terms of practicing it and implementing it into your playing, I think take your time. Just take one of these, practice it in a couple keys, and then start to add some keys. Don't get too overwhelmed with trying to do all of these at once. All right, so that's inversions. Bottom note, put it on top. Top note, put it on bottom. All right, number 3, we've got what I was just alluding to, which is chromatic. And actually, this one we're not going to worry about having anything. We're going to not look at the page for a minute, which is good. Because this one, number 3, chromatic, is better to be kind of understood more conceptually than how it looks at on the page. I mean, really, all of these, ideally, we're doing them by ear, but I think it is useful to see how they're laid out. But this one is really about how we use the chromatic, okay? So if we go back to our C minor example with like the 4th voicings, right? That's the diatonic movement. Chromatic movement is just taking the same voicing, moving it up chromatically. So these will result in the exact same intervals within the voicing. When we were moving diatonically, we had it always stayed fourths, but sometimes it was perfect fourth and a perfect fourth. Sometimes it's a perfect fourth on the bottom with a tritone on top. Sometimes it's a tritone on bottom, perfect fourth on top. But these are going to be all perfect fourths because we're moving chromatically, right? And typically the way people use these, and sometimes we can get stuck into thinking that it's the only way to use it, is like where we kind of slip up to another chromatic area and then start moving diatonically and playing out, right? And that's fine, and that's a good area. But I like thinking about the chromatic approach to these left-hand voicings as more of an alternate way to introduce a little bit of melody, a little bit of melodic riffing, right? So if we go to like the G minor to C7, well, let's do it in another key just to have some fun. C minor 7 to F7 to B flat, a 2-5-1, right? So if I'm using this voicing for the C minor, this is our basic Bob 3-5-7-9, rootless, right? I can do that where I just move with some good voice leading to the F13 flat 9 and then to a B flat major basic Bob. But I can also I'm slipping up and down, slipping up and then back down chromatically with all these chords without playing out or changing what I'm doing, improvising. I'm just sort of, and I might do it from a half step below too, chromatically, right? That's all it is. Maybe I go to that 4th voicing for the major 6-9, right? And because of the timing of it, and I'm just jumping up and out of it, I'm not actually changing the tonal center or the chord we're on or forcing me to play that with the right hand. And even places you think this wouldn't work, sometimes they do work. This is definitely like a trial by error, but trial and error, trial by fire. But like that, I went to the G7 and I'm going to a root shell flat 13, just like a simple 7-3 flat 13 for the 6th chord, the G7. But if I slip up half step, it kind of gives you the feeling of a D7, right? That worked better before, but you know what I'm saying. It can work. And what's fun about this, and I'm already starting to do it, and like I mentioned at the beginning, is really the goal of this, and hopefully the end result is the combination of them, right? So if I go here for the B flat major, and I do a little bit of chromatic above or below, but I can combine it with some diatonic movement, right? So this is diatonic movement, this is chromatic movement, right? And you'll find that those two neighbors, the diatonic neighbor and the chromatic neighbor, become very important, even for very kind of traditional, almost like almost like Red Garland kind of sort of voicings. That's diatonic, that's chromatic, like super valuable for these kinds of movements. Okay, so that's chromatic. There's also other stuff that you can do. It doesn't have to just be half step above. You know, if I'm sussing out over like a G7 sus. Let's see. I can move up, you know, a couple of different places, shift up, you know, when we've got some space. The idea is just we're not moving chromatically, we're moving diatonically. I mean, we're not moving diatonically, we're moving chromatically. There we go. All right, that's chromatic. Let's go to pentatonic. This one is really fun. I like this one a lot. And I've taught this before, but never in this way. So I'm hopeful that this might make it even easier, because I used to just sort of run through these chords. But this is what the idea is here. Can you guys see that? Yes, I think so. Okay, pentatonic. This is based off of a pentatonic scale, but not the typical minor scale. So we're going to do it over C minor. We've got 1, 1, 3, minor third, fourth, fifth, 6. So that's like the pentatonic minor 6 scale, whatever you want to call it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 5 different notes in it, right? And just to have good spacing on here, we're going to actually start on the 5th, right? So this is the chords that you're seeing right next to these now, right? That's the scale, but we're starting here. I'm sure you're all familiar with this kind of a sound. What it really is a combination of a couple things that we've looked at, but we're expanding them out now. So we've got the so what voicings. That's the first 2. That's D minor, and this is in C minor. It's the same thing though. So we've got all fourths with the major third on top, and we're moving those 2 the same as if we were going diatonically, but we're going to alter from that because we're doing pentatonic movement now. We looked at diatonic, we looked at chromatic, now we're doing pentatonic movement. So that means we're using as our top note guides that pentatonic scale. So now we got to jump up to the C, right? And on this one, we flesh it out with all fourths, right? And that's a tritone on the bottom, perfect fourths all between there. Okay, so the first 2, so what, all fourths, and then we're moving up pentatonic again. This goes to all perfect fourths. And then this is our last one, because then we're repeating at the G. And this is, you know, I mean, I don't think that McCoy Tyner was the first one to play this, but he definitely institutionalized this. He set the precedent for this. He's like the cultural jazz piano connector for all of us, the OG. These are all the same, exact same voicings, just built out over the minor pentatonic 6th scale for whatever key that you're in. And these are really fun when we start to combine them with that chromatic, right? Diatonic too, but especially the chromatic. So I'm going pentatonic. Beneath, but like that's really the vibe for these, is making that sort of combination. But you got to kind of hear it off of that first. All right, so that's pentatonic movement, and just remember you've got those so what voicings, and then 1, 2 so what voicings, all fourths major third on top, and then you've got 3 all fourth voicings moving diatonically. Obviously the pentatonic, this same pentatonic scale that I have there on screen, works great over this, but your regular minor pentatonic, as opposed to, really works good too. Chromatic. All right, so that's that sound, pentatonic. We're up to number 5. We are rolling, folks. Number 5 is inner movement. Okay, so what we have here, this is really like a big area with like, I mean, all these different areas are kind of limitless in a way once you get the concept, because you can apply them to any voicing, and there's like, you know, darn near an infinite number of voicings. I don't know if there actually is an infinite number of voicings. There kind of is, because even if you have the same combination of voices, you can play them differently. You can voice in and out certain, like that's not the same as, or as, like when I'm emphasizing different notes. So you have a lot of possibilities, but all these concepts can work a lot of different ways. But this, you know, we're really getting some areas where you have a lot of great choices. So we're going to look at C minor. Yeah, I did a lot of C minor. So if I'm playing, maybe I'm using some inversions, right? And it sounds like, oh, well, you're playing different chords or different notes, but I'm not. I'm just sort of making some melodic choices. You know, like before we talked about chromatically moving to make some melodic riffs with our left hand. This is done, making some choices inside of those voicings, right? So if I'm, or, right? So this is even before I actually go to the F7, right? So I've got F minor, I've got F minor 6, but it's really just the 7th going down to the 6th and it can go back. Or I've got major 7. Okay, before I get there. So we go down to the 6th, we go up to the major 7th, maybe we go, this is like implications of a diminished, but then you can go back to the minor. But everything on the outside stays the same. You just got all these different places that you can go on the inside, okay? And then the next one is F major. Let me refresh myself on what this is. All right, so yeah. F major, we've got our 3, 5, 7, 9 basic bob, F major, but in this inversion. And then we're gonna slip into, the outside stays the same, into an implication of a diminished. But I don't have to go there with the right hand, right? But I might want to go there. Inversions, chromatic move approach, inversions, a little chromaticism, a little inner movement there. So that's kind of what your choices are for the major. For the minor, I mean, they work on any kind of chords, but they sound different for each one, right? And the last one I have is for a dominant. So we look at this 4-note voicing for an F7, F13, shell 13, and then the 9th. So now I'm switching. So when I go up chromatically, it's a little bit more of an abrupt, but that's the subtle one, right? Because really good players, they don't just sit, like if I'm playing a blues. can, but it's fun to add some other stuff. So those are all good voicings, basic but good voicings, right? But I didn't do anything to like spice it up. So and it doesn't have to always be that chromatic thing. This would be more like maybe a little bit of that. What do I have here? Oh yeah, with the ninth. So there I went to the next one, which is flat 9, sharp 11. So again, these are inner movements, so the outside is staying the same. And now I'm going, and then the third one is that, sharp 11, flat 9. And then what's the last one I got? Sharp 9, sharp 11. And over a blues, I wasn't even meaning this to work over blues, but it does work over blues, of course. This can be a progression, say, when you're on that one chord, F7. Where it gets more and more tense, right? And then you go to the 4. So it's little subtle inner movement stuff. All right, we're up to number 6. How are we doing on time? Well, we're doing perfect. Don't want to brag, but number 6. So this is the diminished cycle. These are fun. This is kind of the most advanced of the ones I'm showing today. So for some of you may be like, hold on a second, my mind is blown too much. That's okay. You'll get there. It's all good. But this is just moving things around like through the diminished cycle via minor thirds up or down. And you can think about this as a little bit of allegorical to, or similar in that we're moving to different places, but in different ways from the diatonic or the chromatic. That's what these mostly connect with. So if we take, what do I have here? F7, F13. Okay, good. We got the same voicing here. Actually, let's do the second one here. This one, the that chord, because that's a little bit simpler. So we've got F7. Dominant 7th, 3rd, and the 13th, right? So all we're doing is moving up and then down a minor third. So we go. Right? If you look at the bottom note or any of the notes, no, 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 no. Same intervals. So the movement is chromatic as opposed to diatonic, but we're actually moving through the diminished cycle. So what that means is we're using the exact same voicing, identical. We're not moving from like a tritone and a fourth to all perfect fourths. We're actually doing like a guitar player, just sliding up and down, right? That's an example of it, right? I'm moving through all those, even though I'm staying on the F7. I'm really staying on. I'm not playing. You know, I'm not actually changing to an A flat 7 or to a B7 or to a D7. I'm staying F7. And then when I get here, B flat 7, can do the same thing. Because again, all these can be used for any voicing. They may not work, they may not sound good to you, they might not work in the situation you're trying them, but they can work theoretically. So if I go to B flat 7 here, 3rd, 7th, 9th, and if I go through the diminished cycle, that means I'm going to go up a minor third, right? No, 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 no. Right? Is that right? Yeah. And then back to F7. So that's pretty much what it is. It's anything that we're moving from minor thirds. Even some sort of kind of more advanced. Well, I've got that one here. F13. F13 flat 9. So we've got root, 7th, flat 9, 3rd, and the 13th. This is a great voicing. For putting that tension on that dominant chord. So if I move this up the minor 3rd, right? Up another minor 3rd. But it's, again, all that's working over the F7. All right, so that's diminished cycle. Let me see if I can throw all these together. Let me get my little cheat sheet so I remember what they are. Let me see if I can just kind of go through. Let's do something in G major because I'm sick of C minor and B flat and D minor and all that. So we're gonna start with some diatonic movement. What did I do? So there's your diatonic movement. I was on B flat minor 7. Did that 4th voicing. And then we go back to the G major, same thing, diatonic. Next up is an inversion. There we go, B minor. And then E7 sharp 9. Next up is chromatic. This one's easy. Let me get a better sounding one. There you go. Pentatonic. There we go, over the B flat minor. Check that one off. How about a little bit of inner movement? Let's see. Get in the left hand. There we go. So we got little subtle things on the inside, no problem. And then diminished cycle. All right, this one. Let's see if I can get this. Could be a hard tune for that. Maybe not. There we go. So I'm on the E7. Let me do another. There's another one over the D7. Okay, so that's all of them. Just a little example for them in use over this tune that I can't remember the name of. Oh, out of nowhere, there you came. These are the wrong lyrics. Little diatonic and chromatic. Chromatic, of course. Diatonic. Inner voice movement. Inversions. All right, there we go. That is some ways for you to sound good with your voicings, to practice them, to start to get them in your fingers, get them in your ears, and hopefully have some fun and engaged practice, you know. Because voicings can be like, this is definitely one of the harder areas to be like, oh, how do I develop with them? Because we start thinking we have to get a new voicing. So hopefully this opens your eyes up to saying you can use some of these basic voicings, that you already know, and then how many different ways can you play them and manipulate them. All right. Would you guys have some questions by any chance? I have not been looking at the chat because I've been teaching the lesson. So if you have any questions, please drop them in there. Out of nowhere. Yes. Thank you, Chayla. Beautifully insightful. Good. Good. Yes, they work with two-handed voicings, of course. Vancouver. We always got to get Vancouver in the house. I didn't get that at the beginning, but there you go. Drop any questions that you have or any comments, or what do you think about voicings? Who's your favorite jazz pianist for voicings? I think for me, I'd love to hear what you guys think. I mean, Chick Corea comes to mind. Incredible voicings, like especially just left-handed voicings, Of course, Herbie Hancock. I mean, for really inventive, like kind of makes you scratch your head, and then when you figure out what he's actually playing, you're like, oh, Thelonious Monk, for sure. Mary Lou Williams, a master of just spread voicings and hip voicings. A lot of folks, but those are ones that come to mind. I'm sure I'm forgetting some good people. Great lesson. Now practice this for 5 years and you're good to go. I mean, yeah. So the idea though is like during those 5 years and beyond, how can we stay engaged with our practice of these and also integrate this into our playing for improvement as we go? I think this kind of thoughtful but restricted practice and sort of breaking these voicings down into different ways to manipulate them and move them around is really tied very much to like how you would actually play. And then you start to combine, like I was doing, several of these different elements, eventually all of them, and some other ones too. So I think an integrative approach like that, it's like when you get a chance to play, whether that's on a gig, a jam session, or just practicing playing at the end of your practice session, which we recommend, is thinking about, kind of being conscious about how you're going to put these in, how you're going to, practice using them in your playing so that you have a little better chance that you don't have to wait till the end of the 5 years. They'll start to be coming out as you go type of thing. Bill Evans. Oh my God. Okay. When you talk about voicings, how can you not talk about Bill Evans? I did a short video the other day, and it was basically just talking about how sometimes you can leave obvious notes out and the voicing will sound better. And it was a third that I can't even remember what I was playing, but I mean, like these types of voicings, they don't even have a third, like a C major, and they're kind of weaker if they have the third, in my opinion, at least the way I have it voiced out. And a lot of people comment it sounds like Bill Evans, so I think that's definitely something that he was doing, right? Maybe you had the third in a little later. Thank you, Simon. Appreciate that. Appreciate all the kind words. I'm sorry I can't keep up with everything. Do you like the 9 minor third 11 7? 9? Yes, I like that. If that's what you like over a major. 9. Oh no, you said minor. That one's good too, though. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, because that's sort of an inner voice, an inner movement. I didn't specifically show this, but I would say that from like a basic Bob B flat minor. So if you look at the 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, and this is how all these systems kind of integrate. And then we invert it up to here, right? And then we drop that 5th, 5th, where am I at? 5th, down to the 4th, to the 11th, right? That's too low. Let's do it here. E flat. We're just moving that around in the middle. We can even alter it like that too. Sullivan Forster. I think you mean Sullivan Fortner. You probably got spell corrected. Absolutely. You gave us more ideas than the Mark Levine book. High praise. Thank you. Lawrence Hobgood. Absolutely. Chicago's finest. No third. Yeah, no third can work. You were playing, okay, I can't even read what that is. Sorry. I love thirdless voicings. Take out the third. Exactly. Barcelona is in the house. What's up, Mark? Please click like if it's fun and it's free. Thank you. Thank you, Geocosmic Valentine, a friend from, I believe, Long Island. Please click like. It's fun and free. Absolutely. I love the way that comes across. Do you ever wish we as humans had more than, say, 5 fingers? Not really. I guess it would be helpful, though, right? Where would you stop? 13 wouldn't be enough. You'd have to have 14. I think having some, more fingers. Sometimes I wish all my fingers and thumb were the same length, because the piano is such a, it's flat here. It's not curved around us, although I do know that there is a piano that's been developed like that. I've never had a chance to play it. But because of that, like the contortions that we have to do, the possible pain that we can bring to ourselves if we're not like moving in the right way and contorting ourselves to be able to play the instrument in a way that's somewhat symmetrical from our bodies to the keyboard, I think would really benefit from all these being the same length. So that would be my only question. All right, cool. We're at the top of the hour, so I'm going to sign off. I thank you guys so much for being here. If you enjoyed this, like the good people said, subscribe to this channel. We go live all the time. Adam Manis is going to be here on Friday, I believe. I can't promise it, but he most likely will be here Friday, something like 11 a.m. Eastern, most likely. But if you subscribe to the channel, get your notifications, you'll get an email whenever we go live. And check out everything we have over at Open Studio. The Open Studio Pro program is going bonkers. We've got a bunch of new people. We've got some new teachers that we're announcing next week. They're actually starting next week. We've got your old favorite teachers, yourself included, but it's really the most innovative and effective, I think, musical online community and program ever developed. I mean, I'm getting to the point where I think it's actually better than almost any in-person situation, unless you have a great teacher and a great group class situation weekly, because we've got all that, So if you're looking to really take your playing to a next level and you get a little bit confused on what to do and you're having trouble keeping up with the YouTube videos and all this, it's a lot of the same stuff we do here, but it's structured. We have 4 different time tracks every day, classes 6 days a week, accountability. It's like going to the gym and you got a bunch of personal trainers there with you, as opposed to just trying to figure out the equipment or do push-ups out on the sidewalk by yourself, which you can do, and you can get buff like that. But this is really another thing. We have moved to an application process at Open Studio Pro, but don't be too off-put by that. That is just about ensuring the numbers and that the community is reflective of what we know will continue to work great for Open Studio Pro. So there's a little bit of screening with that application. You can't just join up. But our turnaround at this time is pretty quick, as in a couple of days on that, because we review all the applications manually. And it's nothing to be scared of. You don't have to be at some expert level. It's not about that. But it's just making sure, well, you'll see when you go check it out. openstudiojazz.com/pro. You can apply. There's no obligation. You'll get more information on that. And we hope to see you over there. And I hope to see you again here on Friday for the next live. And that's all I got for you. Peace.